Thanks everybody for coming to our workshop on cooperative learning. As Debbie said, I'm Valecia and this is Lori. And what we're going to do is kind of demonstrate and go through how we do cooperative learning in our classroom, okay? So the first thing I would like for you to do is we're going to use something called Poll Everywhere. And what I want you to do, if you're in cohort 2, you're going to put in 22333, or you can use your computer. If you have your computer, you can boot it up, or you can use your phone. It's a free test, okay? This one I do use with my students. The next one we're going to do, I don't use with my students, but I'll explain to you why. But if you're in cohort 2, you're going to text this number. The phone number is 22333. Okay, and then you're going to text, cohort 2 is going to text 323921. If you're in cohort 3, you're going to text 323926. And if you're a Woodrow Wilson Fellow or somebody working with Woodrow Wilson Fellows, you're going to text this number. Okay, and then it'll come right up. So I'm just kind of trying to get trying to understand who we have here, okay?
Well, I have my REX teachers.
Yes, you want to put them in cohort 3?
Oh, that would be fine.
I could change it real quick, but it might take time. So, you want them to be with Woodrow Wilson? She is. So if the REC teachers would put cohort 3, so we'll put those together, cohort 3 is. So if you need to, I can show you what it looks like, what it should look like. Okay, so see, you text 22333, and then all you're going to do is put in the number. Don't put this piece in, just put in the number. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'll go back. No, I won't go back that way. Sorry, I pulled it up. It's just I couldn't put it in my slide.
I'm Catherine. Remember your name yesterday? My daughter texted me back and said,
So right now,
all I did was put that.
I'm trying to figure out how many
She said, why are you
each group we have.
boy, you're good. I said,
So it shows you automatically. So what you're going to do is put 22333 in your phone, or if you're going to do it by computer, you're going to go to polle.com, Valecia Kelly 949. If you're doing it by computer, you go there, and then it'll come up, and you just click on which one you want. So I use this to quiz kids with the, when I do OGT prep, exit ticket, something like that. So it's free, and this version is free. I use free is for me. And so you can use this and make all kinds of polls. They have different types of polls. So anyone need some assistance?
Okay, so if they have a cell phone, they can just type that in.
Right.
If they do not and they have a laptop, they have to go
They have to go up there where it says polleb.com and then my name, and then 949, and then the poll should come up, and then you can select whichever.
And if no poll comes up, then what?
Is it poll turned on?
Yeah, it is on because it's going through.
What about
Okay, let me see what's on. Let me make sure it's on.
Yeah.
Let's see what it does on my phone. They work on your phone. The maximum polls or responses. When I did it on my phone, it says that. No, I'm saying it says that I have received the maximum number of responses for that poll.
Okay,
You do.
that's what she was
What's going on.
Yeah, maybe close it out, I don't know.
Okay.
Not it, I mean, I want to log in. We have to log in.
Make sure they're turned on real quick. I have my, sorry. Let's take a look.
Is it at the top where it says start?
No, I have to start, I started it over here. Let's see, start. Let's see
See,
if
it says poll is on.
See what happens. We'll just work with this, we're just gonna have a minute or two and see what we can.
And I'm sure you guys all know as we're working on this with technology, it can be a blessing and it can be a curse. I love technology.
Sometimes it doesn't do what you want.
It does do what you want it to do. So if it doesn't work, we just go plan
We just
B.
gonna keep moving.
Because you got paper.
I brought posters for the other thing just in case it didn't work.
All right.
So there we go, we're getting there. Okay. All right, got a little started. Okay.
Okay.
Is it still not on?
I have 2 minutes. That's right, fellas.
No, it's, I access it, so it sends you a message, I say you can't.
So people are still being able to go on that. We'll see what happens. Okay, so the next one, we'll come back to this one. Okay, the next one we're gonna see, I'm a LeBron fan, forgive me if I hope I don't insult anybody, but I was testing it, so I'll put that up there. So this next one is a code that allows you, I don't use this one with the kids because you can't identify who said what. So don't use this with the kids because they might say something you don't wanna see. So this one is for our parking lot. So if you have any questions or anything as we go through the workshop, type them in and we're gonna come back to this at the end and just answer your questions at the end, okay? So I tested it, it should be fine. So what I'm gonna do is write it up here so that if you have questions as you go through, you can go text them or put them in your computer, okay? All right, so that's our parking lot. Now, if it doesn't work, I'm gonna pull out some Post-its and put up a little thing and you can just write it and we'll do low tech, okay? So I'll put it up in just a second. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna have everybody stand up, push your chairs in, and we're gonna do a silent lineup, okay? And what you're gonna do is line up by. Okay. So what we're gonna do is line up by birthday, just the day, the month, and the day, okay, not the year. You don't want, I don't want anybody to know like my age. We're gonna go here. This will be January all the way back to December. Okay, you cannot talk. You only can use nonverbal clues. Okay, so we're gonna. Oh, and my quiet signal is I go, which means may I have your attention, and you'll respond by saying I may, and I'll do that again after we do this, because it's silent lineup, so I won't have to worry about talking. I'll come back to that. All right, you're gonna go take one constraint is that you cannot talk. Think of a nonverbal way to communicate your birthday, and I'm gonna time you. When I use this in my class, my first bell goes against the second bell, third bell, fourth bell, how many bells I have. And they try to beat them, and then I give them a ticket or something, some points or something. So they go against each other. So what we're gonna do is just see if we can, I'm just gonna time you, and we'll see how fast you get it, okay? So we're gonna start here for January, 1/1, straight back to December, okay? All righty, you can go. No talking, you get 5 seconds for every sound I hear or talking. Okay. I thought that was it. Okay, are we still going? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Still lining up our birthday.
But you can't speak.
It's prior knowledge.
I know, that's all, like, I should have done something different. Okay, so right now, it's 37 seconds, 40 seconds, it's probably a couple minutes, but that's okay. So we'll just go through, we'll add 5 seconds every time we're off, okay? All right.
January 14th,
January 16th.
February 15th, February 21st,
February 28th,
March 18th,
March 19th.
March 21st, April 21st,
April 22nd,
April 28th.
May 12th.
May 16th,
June 8th.
June 22nd.
August 9th,
August 15th.
August 15th,
August 28th. September 19th.
September 23rd,
September 25th.
September 10th.
October 6th.
When you said that, like, wait a minute.
October 7th,
that's a long, you had 10, I thought you were talking
No,
October.
no, 10.
October 24th,
I'm like, what?
October 26th.
I mean, the later we can't hear people at the end.
October 24th,
October 26th.
November 6th.
All right, good job, you guys. Take it. Don't move. Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna pair you up. You two ladies will be together, so you can move up that way. You two gentlemen. Let's see. You two ladies. You two. You two, and then you. This gentleman will be paired up. I'm trying to do guys. You two are already paired up. Yeah, we're gonna go out there. You two ladies paired up, and then you two gentlemen. And then we're good. Okay, so this is what you're gonna do. You tie it up, right? One arm, and then you're gonna just take your string and be hooked to your partner like that. Okay, and then you're gonna put it on your other. So all you're doing is taking your string and just hooking it to your partner, then you're gonna be together. Okay, then you're gonna do it. Okay, then tie your other, or let your partner tie your other wrist. It just depends on if you can tie or not. Okay. And then your string should be on you like this.
So our string has to go.
Your string is tied to you, like handcuffs. Your string is tied to you. So you just loop it. That's yours is good. There you go. Yeah. Right. It's supposed to. Okay, you good? You guys have Yep. You guys are just going to check on that. Yep. Okay, let's take a look, guys. Yep.
Yep. Good.
Wrap it over your hand and then pull it through and it should come off.
Oh. Try it. Why don't you try it?
Could you say that again?
Make a loop out of your shoulder straight, put it through your wrist.
From the back to the front? Okay. Okay. Yes.
Under the string. Excellent job, you guys. Now what I want you to do, these are gonna be your teams for the rest of the workshop. I'm thinking we only have 2 people in this group. So, we'll see. We have anybody that didn't get with a group? Other? Okay. So, what we're gonna do, what I want you to do with your team right now is to debrief with the prisoner of war activity, what worked, what didn't work. Like what were some things that you did that allowed you to accomplish the task? What were some things that you thought about? What were some things you think your students would get from this? So what worked, what didn't work? Okay, just a few minutes for that. You can write along with it.
Well, let's see, what did it work? No, everything you did. We still know how to be maybe she told us. Yeah, I didn't think that messing around with the wrist area until she was like, oh, wrist, and I saw a bunch of people like reading the wrist.
There's nothing that you got we were literally going perfect, like we were sitting around and dancing and hugging and all these other things. But that was fun. I mean, it was fun, I guess. It's fun to get us to do things. Sometimes I want to do too much.
I'm very good.
I usually use a different
That's how it is. Too much touching? Nope.
I'm glad you guys participated.
Your kids were.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do it at the beginning. I kind of watch you, who are the leaders, who are,
It's better for smaller kids. For younger kids,
their
it's not the
personality.
same concerns.
And the ones that are too mean.
Just about.
I have had leaders,
If you can even see it because it's enough to this activity work.
go under this way.
Do you normally get that age of maturity when they're on 7th grade?
Yeah. So you take
Like 9th grade. I stopped with trouble.
Maybe that's it.
I just take that part.
My seniors from.
Some kids get because they're very visual, so they can
They should have put me in the grade.
Hi.
No one did work.
Everything.
We didn't meet the goal.
The goal and the level of frustration.
Okay. I'll go. discuss what were some things that worked. That's my phone. Anybody want to share?
One person holding still.
One person holding still, while the other person.
Solve the problem for this day activity.
Okay, anyone else? I gotta turn off this is so, I gotta off this stupid. Okay. Just take that out of the thing, reverse that. Okay. Anyone else?
We listened to each other's ideas, we both had ideas and we tried both of our ideas.
Okay, listen to each other. Anyone else want to share?
We said it was a good chance for students to think outside the box, just to try to come up with something new. And
Yeah, just think differently, yeah.
We were discussing over here how it'd be a good way to figure out like which students are going to be very persistent in activity and which students are going to be those ones that may like give up after they see a challenge.
That's good.
Good, goodness, Seven.
What worked was your encouragement saying, you can do this, you can do this. Yeah, that worked.
Okay. You like
So
that?
encouraging each other.
Okay, good. And that's what you have to do with the students. Because they're like, this don't work. I'm like, and then one group of students, we got it. And then everybody will keep trying for a little while. So it is possible. I'm glad some people figured it out. Now Ms. Cargile is gonna.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to do what didn't work. My
Yeah.
bad. Go ahead. Okay, what didn't work?
Any movement of your body.
Any movement of your body, like actually trying to put your body through it. And it's so fun. I love to watch the kids and take pictures because they are trying like to get their whole body through that little bitty string. Sometimes I use different lengths of string because it makes the task even, makes them think, oh man, you got the bigger string so you should do this. So
I heard some assumptions too along those lines
Okay.
about the length of the string.
Yeah, it said, well, you know, you gave us a big string and you kept saying, oh, I hope it's long enough. So I kept thinking, oh, we've got to step through it and make it a big loop. But it could be that you could give the kids a length this short. And then they're gonna, you know, some may still try to get through.
right, they would. They probably would.
For our group, well, as far as actually doing it, nothing worked because we failed miserably. But as an activity, we found it very frustrating after maybe a minute or two of getting nowhere.
Okay.
So about half the activity, we were very frustrated and we weren't productive at that point.
Okay. Well, when I gave you the hint, did you try it?
For a second, and then again failure.
And you have students that'll do that as well. But once they see somebody, and then I usually, if somebody gets it, I make them put it on their feet and try it again. So that's just to keep them like.
What was encouraging was when she said, you're warm, you're cold, you're warm, you know, when she, you didn't say, you know, this is what you need to do, just said you're warm or
Yeah,
you're cold.
that's good, yeah.
That's a good one.
But you asked what you needed to do.
I'm not yet.
Not yet, but in general.
Yeah.
Good, excellent.
I do have one question.
Okay.
What kinds of things, because I know all of you or all of us are trying to stay current in what's going on in education, and a hot education psychology topic is perseverance. What thing, because I heard some comments towards perseverance, what kind of things would you do as a teacher to encourage that perseverance? Because that's something, especially in STEM fields, that we know that we have to do a better job at as American teachers. What would you say as a teacher in this activity or anything that could possibly or potentially be frustrating? Lennox?
I would constantly provide encouragement. Like, I would always tell my students, like, we know that this can be done, that you're a great student, that you're excellent, and because you're excellent, we know that you can figure this out or you can get through this challenge. It's been done before, which means you can do it as well.
And that it's been done before is encouraging. Just alone saying this has been done before. Okay. Anything else you might add to your comments?
A reward or a prize. Yeah, my kids personally could care less about grades, but a little dedication, they'll work on that.
I think in the sort of the structure of the CBL, I mean, that's sort of inherent in that system is trying to make the topics relevant and important to them so that they'll want to do it anyway, regardless of some kind of prize or something like they should be self-motivated by the selection of a nice, appropriate, relevant topic for their activities.
Okay. So having them contribute to the discussion.
I think the best thing is change the perception of failing.
Say that again?
Change the perception of failing.
Yes. That failure is just another opportunity to succeed. Yes.
Yes, or they always have a chance to succeed. The time is not fixed time. You always give them time to succeed.
Yes.
Like
Oh.
they can do it until they succeed. It's not only you have 1 week
Yep.
and you're gonna fail. Even people grow differently. Some people take them 10 days to finish the task. As long as they finish the task and done it well, they should be given a chance to pass.
Yeah. So removing some of the time constraint.
Yes.
That's hard as a teacher. I agree with you,
Anal
but I agree with you, but that was always for me as a practicing teacher, something I knew I should do, but I found it logistically very hard for me to do. And it was an adjustment from my traditional mindset, when it's due on Friday, you better have it in on Friday, versus, a more innovative thought of some people need more time. Okay. One last one?
Well, let's do Catherine.
Okay.
My students do a lot of peer instruction, so I think sometimes just knowing that you're going to be teaching your classmates or teaching another class.
Okay.
And then we had elementary in our basement of my school, and so I would have the students come to me and they had to go teach to the middle school and elementary science classes. And so that was like the culminating thing coming up towards the end of the year. So a lot of them had that pressure on, and it also taught them that they actually need to master things and need to complete things in order to do that.
So positive peer pressure and positive peer collaboration. And
I was gonna say chunking things into smaller pieces. If
Okay.
you've got a great big task, breaking it down.
Okay, because seeing that big task at once can be like, oh my God, I gotta do all of that. But if you say, just do this, task A, okay. All right, so today, one of the biggest takeaways that we want you to have is that grouping is not equal to cooperative learning. Just sitting kids in groups and giving them an assignment is not cooperative learning. Now, outside of education, I've heard the two terms interchange. By parents, I've heard the terms interchange. They're not the same. Okay, so today, one of the biggest takeaway is you're going to learn the difference and some of the critical attributes of cooperative learning. Oh, by the way, in your O-test, that's one of the things you're supposed to do is tell your students what the objective is for the day. Okay. One thing, for science, this is a slide that Debbie created a year ago. We just want to give you an idea of how you might group your students. This is a seating chart, or a way that you might seat your students in a science classroom. And of course, each of those little squares are the little, your little, I shouldn't say little to diminish the science people, but your black lab tables pushed together. And then in a math classroom, might look something like this. In my math classroom, I like this seating arrangement. The red rectangle would be my desk. And usually I would have my desk in the back. And I like this arrangement because it enabled me to, if there was something, like my warm-up would be projected when the students came in, but then when I wanted the students to work collaboratively, I would just have one of these kids could come around this way or this way, depending on whatever it was we were doing. So as long as two kids don't come around with their backs to each other, it works perfectly in a classroom. So it enables you to have focus towards one direction and enables you to have collaboration so all four of the kids can physically talk to each other in a small space. Okay, some ways that you're going to group your students. In a cooperative learning group, it's recommended that you have 2 to 4 students. And when I say it's recommended, most of this conversation is driven by Kagan. If you've heard of Kagan is a private organization that provides professional development for cooperative learning. Cincinnati Public is a good, I don't know if I would say partner, but quite a few Cincinnati Public Schools have participated in Kagan training. Sometimes it's offered at Mayerson, And I've seen it in some other school districts as well. So what are some types of cooperative learning groups? Before I reveal them, I have a question for you. Homogeneous grouping. That means grouping them by something that they have that's alike, usually achievement. Something you should use often or something you should use sparingly? Sparingly. Okay. So one way we could group is heterogeneous, which is how you've been done today. Homogeneous achievement, use sparingly. So if you said sparingly, pat yourself on the back. I know I treat y'all like y'all kids, but I can't help it. Okay. And strategically, otherwise it can be self-fulfilling. So if you put the homogeneous, you group kids homogeneously, they'll figure it out quickly. And if you've read anything by Kwanzaa Kanjufu, he's an educational psychologist that talks about stereotype threat often. He talks about how he's been in classroom. He was in a classroom and kids were grouped by reading and how shocked he was. This was in, I think, the late 90s. They were the eagles, the bluebirds, and the chickens.
Oh, great.
And how shocked he was that occurred in the classroom. And you know the chickens, once you identify them as chickens, they're gonna act like chickens. So, randomly, which yours is a random heterogeneous, by interest, by choice, like let's say it's a math classroom and I don't know, if there's a project that has some choice in it and there are kids that want to all do the same thing. By gender, notice we did you by gender for the prisoner of war because there might be some kids who are, I don't know, conservative and who may not want to make all those movements with someone of the opposite gender. Working habits. Okay. So, and the bottom line is, whatever you decide to do, you want your assignments to be fluid. You don't want to, in August, say, the 4 of you are sitting together no matter what. Now, I know the 2 of y'all can't stand each other. I know y'all had a fight yesterday, but y'all gonna stay together. So you don't want to do that. So you want to be fluid, you want to change them as needed. So what is cooperative learning? It's positive interdependence. Groups function as a team with a common goal. So you had a common goal with prisoner of war, what was it? Yes. And it requires cooperation. Did you have to cooperate with each other? Yeah, because if one person just stood there, it wouldn't have worked. Individual accountability. So students receive individual roles, responsibilities, and grades. That's not always easy to do. That can be challenging, but it's necessary. There was one person, where's Barb? And we talked about this. Barb, if you don't mind, I don't put you on the spot. Could you talk about your experience with this individual accountability?
I transitioned to Google Docs this year, and we used it like constantly in my math class, and that way they have to individually write up pieces, and then they get group parts too. So everyone had to, like when we did the engineering design process, had to write their own brainstorming. So everyone had their individual accountability and had to have their own slide on the Google presentation, and then there they brainstormed together and narrowed it down to 3 choices, and then from there we won. So it was individual accountability as well as group.
And how does it make a difference in terms of the work ethic of everybody in the group?
It really made a huge difference because some people just sit down when everyone else do the work. So now they were forced to do it, and it didn't count against the whole group if somebody didn't do their part. I knew right away who wasn't accountable.
Yeah.
And with Google Docs, you can actually check the work, who's doing what. I love Google Docs. So you can check and see as it's by color. You know, and then you have their name. You can go through who's done work or who. And then like I had one group of kids that one girl let this boy use her vocab cards. I just went on a little thing, and I'm like, these aren't your cards, because it had her name in it still. He didn't know that happened, so he cut and pasted them, and I'm like, this is the same as somebody. And so you can actually, Google Docs is really good, and you can check, like she was saying, you can check whether they work or not. And so they can't just copy and paste somebody else's work, because their name is still the owner of that particular document. So.
And the bottom line is, if you give one group grade, you are giving the grade of the highest achiever in your group to everybody, whether they deserve it or not. Because you can't give them the lowest grade because you would get too much parent pushback. Usually you are giving them the grade from the highest achiever. And once you do that, you will notice your kids who don't want to do anything, if you allow them to pick their own groups, they're going to run towards the kids who have the greatest work ethic because they know they're going to get their grade. Okay, you want equal participation. All students are engaged. The high achiever doesn't do all the work. And simultaneous interaction, the students engage and collaborate with each other. And that is because students gain more from what they say than what they hear. And I'm sure you've heard that before in other settings. Okay, so positive interdependence, group function as a team with a common goal. A task requires cooperation. So when you look at our team, our young ladies, how do you know that they're a team? How can you identify them as a team? Okay, so they're wearing what?
Same jersey.
Same jersey. What else? What about that jersey? Go ahead. Same name?
Same color.
Same colors? Okay. So when we look at them immediately, we know that they are a team. So we're going to have you guys create your own teams. You're going to create a team name. We have a hot girl in our midst. That's right. Consider having the teams. As a teacher, you might have them dress alike or wear the same color on presentation days. As a teacher, you're going to encourage your teamwork because you're going to call them by their team names and make comments, encouraging comments like there's no I in team, two heads are better than one. I like the way this sharks or the hot girls are doing with it, whatever. So to facilitate your team name creation and mascot creation, we're going to have you do a name pane. And I want to show you what the name pane looks like. So with your markers,
One marker, one piece of paper. You can take one piece of white paper, one person gets the marker, get one marker. Any marker you want. Everybody, somebody has a piece of paper, the same person has the marker. Okay, so what you're gonna do, you're gonna put a circle in the middle, similar to the circle. The person with the piece of paper is gonna draw a circle in the middle. Okay? Then you're gonna pass it to the person next to you, and they're gonna make the line from the circle to the corner. Then pass it to the next person, they make the next line, all the way around. So I'll put it that way. Okay? So you're gonna make the circle, and then each person's gonna have a chance to put a line.
They all have accountability in
They don't have to, they don't have to.
It's true.
yeah, you got to stuff on
Are you serious?
All right, so does everybody have their name pane drawn?
I see you chose purple, so you already sort of defined our group.
Okay, so next thing you're gonna do, use the same round robin structure, and the person that has the pane now, they're going to write this question. What is in one pane? What is your favorite food? So just write that question in one. Just write the question. Don't answer it yet. Don't answer it. Just write the question. What is your favorite food?
You want
Just
to
write the
write a
question.
question or answer?
Write the question.
Pass it. Just write the question. Don't answer it. And then pass it to the next person, and they're going to write the second question, which is, what is your favorite color?
In a different pane. Yeah, in a different pane.
In a different pane. What is your favorite color? Don't answer them just yet.
What you gonna be thinking about?
And be thinking about it. Third question, pass it to the next person. What is your favorite genre of music?
I would
And then the last pane, pass it to the next person. And the last pane is what do you do during your free time? Keep it clean.
The thing is, we gotta say that.
I had, what free time, okay. That's true. But if you have,
You're gonna be that guy.
well,
You're gonna be my OCD Twitch.
before class, I'm like meditating.
The red and the purple.
So now you're gonna do the same process to answer the question. So go back to the first question, pass it around, everybody answer that question. Then the second question, then the third question, then the fourth question.
Everybody's gonna answer their own question or what?
And no, everybody's gonna answer the question. So question one, everybody's gonna answer. And send it around. This is, everybody answer.
Give us a margarita on your free time.
I'm just gonna put
Oh my God. I
chose it.
Oh my golly.
That's not the same birthday.
Variations.
You are a horrible person. I like cookies. Yeah, I like Justin Bieber or John?
So that way, I think you're gonna do that.
I will put pop. Because I don't know what. That's your. I wonder if I can butter you up for another two. You know?
Yeah, you will in a bit.
That's my charm.
Well, like when you aren't in school or you're not in school, I don't know.
I love real ones too. That is so.
My husband's like, because I put in my word radiations, like I'm 90 years old. So, yeah.
We don't all have to say it, but.
Some people think yeah,
Thank you. I go? Good. Okay, now what you're gonna do is to create your name, you're gonna take a look at what you have in common, and then decide on the name, and that's gonna go in your circle. Everyone in your group has to agree with it. You can select a reporter to kind of tell, I'm gonna have to look at time to see, and tell us a little bit how you created your name. And then, and your team name must be appropriate for school. Make sure you tell your students that. Because they will come up with some things that you might not want to hit.
I don't have any colors on
So,
there.
give you about 2 minutes.
No kidding.
Or as long as you guys are carrying on the way.
Alright, so we are in purple top cheetah.
Really?
Or we just disregard all of it. No, what? We're in the purple something.
Oreos are healthy. Have lettuce on
Are we in agreement that bacon? Do you like bacon? Do you like bacon? Are you lying to me right now? Do you like bacon? We already know she likes bacon.
I think even though we didn't write it down, bacon is one of our topics. So purple bacon.
And doesn't like candy.
Are we on?
I played it once, but I got bored.
Right now, so we're good to go.
That I did.
Red and black.
I just didn't understand the point.
There is no point.
I'll write the cash.
I'm kind of like Mario. I have to do math. I know that I've gotten to the last level. Yeah, but it's like 30 seconds. Like levels are all the same.
About 30 seconds.
Really? I played like so much.
And our protagonist.
Sizzle and
All right, I go. All right. I go. Everybody, and my students do the same thing. They start singing. Amen. Okay, alrighty, as long as we're quiet. Okay, I'm gonna, do we have any volunteers who wanna share their name and how they came up with their name? Okay.
Yeah, Lennox is to say it, but we're volunteering.
Oh, okay.
You want me to stand up?
No, you can, yes.
Okay. All right, so our name is the Polar Foxes, and that is because we've noticed that half the group, well, our group is pretty much opposite in like everything that we do and everything that we like, as well as we're just hot, like we're just foxes and you just can't get better than us. So,
All right, thank you. Next group. Next, anyone else?
We are the Rocking Readers. And the reason we chose our name is because 3 members out of our 4 like rock music, one form or another, and 3 members out of 4 like to read. So we chose Rocking Readers. Yeah.
Who else? Any volunteers to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
We are we use a part of each of the different subjects. We're the relaxing purple cows. My old school's color is purple, his favorite color is purple. We both like to relax during our free time, and we both like steak, so.
Okay. Okay, next.
Okay. Our team is called Purple Bacon. 75% of us like the color purple. And, well, even though we all didn't write bacon, we all did agree that we all like bacon. And I think you can all agree with us too. If we had to pick one name for the whole group, we'd all be bacon, I think.
And we are sizzling.
Sizzling purple bacon.
You want to try this group back too?
Sorry.
We are the Yellow Crushers.
Okay.
Crushers came from one of our free time options were Candy Crush. And then we all realized that we were all obsessed with a little something like Candy Crush, so we decided that was our main inspiration. And yellow, because that was our one thing we actually had in common. Two of us said our favorite color was yellow, and we all pretty much like yellow too. So, Yellow Crushers.
All right, how about this group?
We are the Mean Green Protein Machine. Green would seem to be it was 2 out of 4, so that's a quorum, right? Protein seemed to be a common theme. And then we're mean since we're all teachers. So that was automatic, right?
Good job. This group?
We are Green Country, in part because half of our colors and half of our musics were green and country, but also we decided to expand those because lots of our free time activities were like camping and playing with kids that is outdoors in the green, very country-esque.
Okay. This group.
We are the Classical Blue Bodybuilders.
Oh.
So half of our group likes classical music and the color blue, and all of us agree that we like to work out.
Okay, excellent. Good job, you guys. All right. So you can leave those in the center of your table. We're going to use those as we go through the rest of our activities. On your table, I put a cup, and again, dollar store. I usually do red and green, but this is the only green that I can find at the dollar store. So it's a happy birthday cup. So what I do with my students when they're working on activities, they have the red, and I use the plastic ones for my students because by the end of the day, this would be done. Because they would be banging it. Miss Kelly, I had my hand up first. I'm like, your cup needs to be just put it right here. Okay. So I use the plastic red and green. You can get the green around Christmas time. It's hard to find it during this time of year. But green, leave it on green when you don't have any questions. You don't need any assistance. Put it on red if you have a question. And then we'll just come around and see what your question is. So we do have a strategy for that.
So, if, let's say, you're not using your cups that day and your groups are just raising their hands to request assistance, if James has his hand up, I'm going to go to Keith and say, what is James's question? And that is to encourage collaboration. I want to insist or require that they collaborate before they raise their hands. I'm going to seat my groups together whenever possible. So in class, when the students come in, this is going to be, as you saw from the seating chart, preferred arrangement is going to be in groups. Consider giving them awards. And awards don't have to be something tangible. They can be intangibles like certificates, like work tirelessly, best collaboration, quick starters. I can make it achievement based, like highest average score, highest total score. And if I really want to encourage great behavior, I might ask my school administrator to announce some of the awards. Like to say, for example, that the purple bacon, the purple bacon, something else, Sizzlers, did a great job on their project last week. Something like that to encourage great behavior. Again, when questioning, when I'm asking a question to the audience, I might just call you by your team name instead of calling you by your individual name. So I might say, the Polar Foxes, what is the answer to whatever? So that requires you, it's encouraging that team spirit and requires you to answer collectively. Yes, Lennox?
How can you create a collaborative environment with different class sections? If you're in high school or middle school, you have different class periods. How could you do that same thing with the entire class to have them all you know, moving toward a common goal, understanding each other's issues and their problems to help each other out in any sense.
They don't have to stay together all day. Like, it doesn't have to be a self-contained. For you to have a team spirit, I mean, think about like an athletic clubs. Those kids are together in their team after, you know, for a purpose. So when you're in my classroom, you are the polar foxes. Now, when you go to English, whatever your English teacher, you're not gonna be a polar fox anymore. You're gonna be whatever, you know.
And if you're, they do have things like class building, I do that you might do as for your class, like they have, you know, activities you can do as a class, like find someone who, and they can go around, and I do one for safety, find someone who, and I have a list of different safety, then they have to sign. So they have a lot of things, and then like this Cargile always did a lot of really cool things with her classes and made them be in competition with the other ones, like they have these little marks, and whoever had the most would get a pizza party, or you know, something like that. So that's how you can build a class. I'm not sure if that was what you were asking as well, a collaborative class environment.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you teach in a 7th, 8th, or 9th grade, if you teach in a team-based school, it is possible that your students are in a cohort that stay together and pass classes. It's possible. Some schools do that and some schools don't. So that would be a team discussion issue, meaning a team of you, the language arts teacher, science teacher, and social studies teacher. Maybe you do want to have a group all day together, but I'm not so sure that I would want, you know, those 4 kids, they'd be sick of each other at the end of the day. Okay. No, it's not yours. Okay. The roles must depend on, I was just looking to make sure it wasn't my fault, I'm pretty sure. The roles must depend on the task at hand. So some possible roles that you could assign to your students are recorder, materials monitor, checker, measurer, spy. The kids love to have a spy in the group. The spy is the one where you say, the spy, you give them spy time. And that's time where they can get up and see what everybody else is doing. Like, for example, when we were doing a prisoner of war, if we had allowed a spy, and you guys are all connected to each other, but a spy has the opportunity to walk around, see what everybody else is doing, and come back and report it to the group. And the reason you want to select one is, for one, it makes them feel special and gives them a task, some personal accountability to get that title of spy, but also it minimizes your movement, because you don't want all 25 kids walking around at once. But if you have 6 kids or 4 kids or 5 kids walking around at once, then that will definitely work. Instruction repeater, speaker, all sorts of things, scribe. Groups might also decide on the roles based on their topic. So for example, if a group is researching transportation of water, they might divvy out assignments. Each might research a different mode of transportation. The roles should rotate regularly. And role assignments can be based on seating, random, or even clothing. For example, I might say the person who is closest to the door is going to be the scribe today. The person who is closest to the projector or to the screen is going to be the spy today. The materials person is wearing the most blue. And the kids get excited by that, which is funny. As long as you switch it up, they love that. Role assignments should be posted prominently, just in case you have somebody who's absent. You just put on a board or somewhere in your classroom who had each role, especially if it's a project that goes on for more than one day. Each student must submit their own copy of critical assignments. Work must be, and Valicia's giving you some ways that you could do that on Google Docs. Work must be in their own handwriting. This is just an idea. Give more weight to assignments done in class versus homework. Consider allowing groups a few minutes of team time to collaborate before submitting individual assignments. If the assignment requires that only one document be submitted, give each group several colored markers, pens, or pencils. Ask students to write a key of who wrote in each color. So that's something, if you don't have access to technology, you can do the same thing with a sheet of paper, just like we did, where you were passing around a sheet of paper, and have each kid have their own color. And then you can, at a glance, see that the orange person did a lot, or that the purple person did very little, or whatever the case may be. Have the students record their own work before collaborating or coming to consensus with their group mates. Okay, so 3 before me means that you're asking 3 students before you ask the teacher, and that's one of Valecia's rules. Turning the cup or plastic sheet red if you need assistance, leave on green if you don't, and Valecia can explain that. So only you can save sand.
All right, so this is our next activity, and I use this as a, introduction to scientific method, but you can use it as it says here for cooperative learning, learning about the students. And in your cup, and I'll just set up the scenario while Ms. Cargile is passing out the cups. There's more on that table. I have like 17. Okay, Sam is stuck on a boat, and how he got there is not important, but Sam can't swim and the boat is capsized. To get to shore, Sam needs to retrieve a life jacket from underneath the boat so that he can float to shore. Sorry. You and your partner's job is to save Sam by retrieving a life jacket from under the boat and putting it on Sam. Unfortunately, the only tools you can use to accomplish this task are paper clips. 1 per person, so you have 4 paper clips. Each person's in this group, you'll just have 4, you can use 2 for it if you need to. You cannot touch Sam, the boat, or the life preserver with your bare hand. You can only use your paper clips, okay? The gummy worm is used to represent Sam, and the gummy lifesaver is the life jacket. And then the boat, you're going to turn the cup over, put the life preserver underneath the cup, put Sam on top of the boat. So this is what it should look like. You have your life preserver. Make sure your lifesaver has like a hole. Put it over here, under, and then put Sam on top. Okay? The only thing, again, you can use are the paper clips. You cannot touch it with your hand except for to get it set up. And so the 4 of you are going to work together. We'll see. I have about 10 minutes to work on it. If we don't need all the time, we don't have to take it, but okay. Did everyone accomplish the task? All right, good job. So what I want you to do, I'm going to come around and give the groups who didn't receive their tickets some tickets. But what I would like for you to do is talk about how you process. So if there's anyone who would like to share their process, how they went about the process. And we can kind of, so what I'm doing with this is have the kids talk about that so they can see that it's different ways to solve a problem. And people attack it, but they accomplish the problem, and they attack it in different ways. So that's kind of what I want them to understand about the scientific method. It's just not a bunch of steps that go boom, 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 boom. That you might start with research, you might start some other location in the scientific process, but the basics are there. So anyone want to share your
something I wanted to add too, I'm not sure if you all could see the bottom of the instructions. The purpose of this, because obviously Sam is not a math and maybe a science standard, I don't think so, but it's not a standard. The idea is that cooperative learning is not a skill that your students are likely going to come to you with. It is something that you have to teach the kids. You have to teach the kids to work collaboratively, and that's why we're doing some non-academic or a little less academic activities with you, because these are things that you could start the beginning of your school year with, to teach the kids how to work together and how to work in groups. They're not going to have that skill unless they happen to have had a teacher before you who did a lot of collaborative activities, because you'll find when you ask your colleagues, there's a lot of people who've done group activities, but not true collaborative learning.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Yes, that's very important. Yes.
I think it's also really easy, even if they have been taught, to revert to their old ways
especially if they're around peers that maybe haven't learned. So teaching them in your class and your expectations and stuff.
Yeah, good point. And if you're in a high mobility school, you have lots of new students every year, so.
Okay, so does anyone want to share what their process was? Okay, go ahead.
So each of us had a paper clip and everyone had a job kind of at first. So one person lifted the cup, another person got the life jacket out, and the other person stabbed Sam.
Sam was gone.
Collateral damage.
And then we all worked together on the life jacket to like spread it out so that the hole was big enough. And then the person put Sam in the middle, and then someone else stabbed him more.
Sam might not be alive, but he in that jacket. Okay, good. Thank you. Good. Anyone else want to share their process? So you guys started off with jobs. They just started off with jobs. Very good. Anyone else?
So, we actually didn't stab Sam, but what we did do at the beginning was talk about some of the constraints, you know, and kind of talk through it like a plan, like, well, what can we do, what can't we do, kind of had to read the rules like we were talking about.
We didn't kill him either.
Oh, that's right.
We he survived.
He survived.
Pinches and blood loss.
Yeah, but you saved his life.
Any other people want to share their process? So they had a plan. Start off this group, assign jobs, good. Anyone else want to share what they did?
We kind of just went for it, and the roles kind of fell in place.
Don't worry about my bell. It's just the bell. Sorry. The people at school like, what are they doing? But that's okay. That's just my little bell. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the roles kind of just fell into place without planning.
Oh, excellent. Okay, that's what students do a lot too. Very good. Any other people? Anybody else want to share their process? Good job. Okay, so what we're going to do next, let's maybe think about pies. How does the pies, what was positive interdependence in this activity? How was that shown? Anybody remember pies?
No one person in your group could do this. I mean, it required all 4 paper clips and all 4 sets of hands.
Okay. I don't know what I keep doing with my ticket. I guess I'm just giving it out too fast. Good job. Okay, anyone else? What about the eye in pies? We have a chart for you.
And then for that, remember they only go to the
Okay, the new
cohort 3.
Can I just put 2 on the table and then we collect them?
Yeah. When we leave, the cohort 3 people are going to take these with them. And then the Woodrow Wilson people, I'll make copies. I have another one that I'm making copies of.
Cohort 2 already have it.
And then cohorts 1 and 2, you should already have them from last summer. And those pamphlet or brochures are directly from Kagan. So they're part of the whole Kagan package. Again, they offer professional development to teachers. So I would encourage if your school district offers any Kagan professional development, I've heard nothing but good things about it, especially from middle and secondary teachers, because it allows us to leap outside of our traditional teaching box. Okay, so one of the Kagan structures we're going to do is called consensus map, and I don't think it's one of the structures that's in your packet, but it is a structure that I've seen, and I wanted to share it with you because it's something that I really like, and the kids seem to really like it. Okay, so get out one sheet of white paper, regroup. Okay, and one person, and this looks just like the panes that we had before. You're gonna draw this, so draw a circle or oval in the middle, does not have to be perfect. And then the 4 lines, one person can just do that. Yes, it's one per table. And then once you draw it, you're gonna have to situate it near the middle of the table. And unfortunately, your tables aren't perfectly level, but just pretend like they are. Okay, so what it says in our instructions, we're gonna do a problem that's called good news, bad news. I'm gonna show you the problem, reveal the problem in a moment. But for now, I want you to write your name and your response to the problem in your rectangular area. So whichever rectangular area is closest to you, put your name in it. And it doesn't have to be rectangular. If you drew it like the name paint and it's kind of triangular, that's fine too. As long as you have your own designated area to write in. Because they making it work. Okay, now, before I reveal our problem, you are going to use your Kagan brochures to conceal your work. Okay? So open up your brochures. Yes, it looks like I'll pass out. Okay. Well, they only need 2. Yeah. Looks like you got it.
Okay, well, what you
Okay, so do we have our areas concealed? It looks like we do. Okay, so we got good news and we got bad news, and this is something that definitely applies to us as teachers. Each student who signed up for a field trip wants to pay $3 to cover the cost of a field trip. When 10 of the students canceled, they were probably ineligible, you know why. Okay, the remaining students decided that they still want to have the field trip. However, the price of the field trip had to be raised to $5 since the total cost of the trip remained the same. How many students actually went on the field trip? So of course you can reread it again to yourself if you need to. Write your response and show your work in your area of the consensus map. So obviously we're concealing, so that means nobody else should see your work. You can use a marker or you can use a pen or a pencil, because some of your markers are kind of fat to write in your area. So whichever works for you. And you do whatever you need to do. If you want to draw pictures, whatever you need to do to solve it, go ahead and do it. And there should not be any discussion at this point. Okay, and if you have your pencils down, excuse me, and kind of look towards me when you're done, and I'll have an idea of who's done. And by the way, as I'm walking around, I'm only looking to see who's working and who's not. I'm not looking at your answers, because people think that I'm like sizing them up, and I'm not. I think Jaren's planning to take home his prisoner of war strings. Okay, now, and it's okay if you're not finished. Now I want you to remove your brochures and come to consensus. And I want one answer. And the person who is wearing the most purple. The person who is wearing the most purple is the scribe who will write the consensus in the middle.
15 okay, but so 25 part of the methodology. No, that's okay. I did the same thing, and then I went. Yeah, I just
Same thing.
Hey, I can say you before. We went through an hour. I thought there was like. I gotta see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one and two from two different decks. I'm gonna try to. This is my issue with algebra. I like it so much.
Okay, it looks like we've come to consensus. Let's see, someone raise your hand, tell us what the final answer is. I don't see consensus. Oh, it goes in the middle.
Oh, okay.
You're purple.
Oh, no, that's a quick question. We're good.
Okay, only the colored foxes want to share their consensus? Okay. I'm trying to remember everybody's name. Audrey, what was your group?
Right
We
here.
are the classical blue bodybuilders.
Okay, oh my gosh. Okay, the classical blue bodybuilders. What is our answer?
Our final answer is 15 students actually went on the trip.
Okay, everybody else, the classical something bodybuilders. Thumbs up or thumbs down? They said 15. Okay. So, the idea of this problem is, I could have just projected this problem and just had everybody do their own answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we didn't even have to do all this consensus mapping. But doing the consensus map doesn't give positive interdependence. Once it's revealed, did you rely on each other to kind of discuss it?
Yeah.
Yes. Individual accountability. So as a teacher, did I know if somebody just chose to opt out and not do anything? Yeah, and this might encourage you, if you're that student, this might encourage you to participate. simultaneous interaction. Once we revealed, did you all interact and say, oh, I got it, or I didn't get it, didn't get it, I didn't do this, and blah, blah, blah. Some discussion? Yeah. Equal participation, like did each person have some contribution to the group? Yes. So does cooperative learning have to be this huge, enormous thing that requires a whole lot of work? No. The only thing we did is we took a standard, this is a pre-algebra math problem. Only thing we did differently was gave you some markers and a white sheet of paper and showed you to make a consensus map rather than just having you do it independently. I could do this as a warm-up in 5 minutes. And further, one thing you could do as a teacher, you could already have like the frame on pieces of paper, copied and pass it out. Or if you did this routinely, if you said consensus map, your kids would already know what it is. You could also use large sheets of paper because for whatever reason, as we all know, kids like large sheets of paper. So you could have varied colors, and all of that just encourages the whole idea of engagement and all of that. Okay, so we already talked about how things we did. Oh, one thing I did want to add, the last bullet. Consider a team cooperation rubric where students assess each other. Not with this activity, but when you're doing a project that's a little bit more involved, especially if it's something that was hard to divide out the roles. Because can you think of some projects where it's hard to give kids individual roles? I can think of lots of projects where it's really hard, especially if your project is open-ended. And in challenge-based learning, we're encouraging open-endedness. So it's hard to say, you do this, you do that, you do this. One thing to do is then have the kids assess each other. And I know Barb has done this. I know several people who have done this, and it's very effective. And the kids love to assess each other. So we did our P, our I, our E, and our S, so simultaneous interaction. Okay, now we're going to do a different one. This one is called the ups and downs of life. So again, get out a sheet of paper.
If you need paper, let me know. We have more. If I need paper.
And this time, you're just going to work with, and if there are 4 of you, you're going to have 2 sheets of paper. And if there are 3 of you, is anybody 3? And if you need more paper, there's some more paper on the table.
Anyone need more paper?
I don't think we have any for the 3. Oh, our conservation. Yes, you can use the bag. Okay. So you and your partner, I'm going to reveal some graphs, and you're going to decide which graph matches each situation, and you'll understand what's on the revealed graph. Each person is responsible for writing explanations for 2 graphs. So each person has to do how many? 2. And you're going to use different colored writing utensils. And the purpose of that is it gives each person a sense of accountability, enables the teachers to see edit marks. Okay, and then finally we're going to edit each other's work. So each person, that's 2. Okay, so you're working with a partner. And I'll read it too. So of course you guys have to decide who does what you do. So by now you've decided who's going to do which 2, and then you're beginning. And you can use a marker, but you might want to use a pen or a pencil.
I'm just trying to get that and give it away. So I'll have to bring it forward. So they might not want to hear it.
Well,
There's no way to enlarge
I can read it if you want, I can read it, it's fine. B is groups of people often volunteer to pick up trash in public parks. The number of people picking up trash is related to the amount of time needed to complete the job. C is when exercising. It is important to warm up and then cool down. Your heart rate while exercising is related to the length of time you exercise. And D, the height of water in the bay rises and falls with the tides. The height of water is related to the time of the day.
I think you're supposed to figure out two pieces to figure out two, and then each other.
You want to do which you want to do? I think that A is
Okay, do that. I might have one or two at home.
I'm frustrated like
So no, not only are you identifying or matching, you're also writing an explanation as to, you're writing an explanation as to, why.
Can we discuss it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, B, okay.
Okay, and then once you are finished, because I'm gonna have you freeze conversation just for a second. I'm gonna have you freeze conversation just for a second. Freeze conversation. I know. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Valecia. Notice in this particular structure, I didn't require silence. So you have a partner. Did you have to collaborate with your partner from the very beginning?
Yes.
Yeah, because you had to decide who was going to do what. And then obviously, once you're matching, you kind of know if one person identifies one as A, then the A can't be the answer for yours. Okay, so now that you have identified or you've made your matches and you've started writing your explanations, once you get done, you're going to edit each other's explanations, but using your marker. So you're going to continue with your own marker. So the kids, you might have them flip seats and all that, but I'm not going to have you guys do that, just for the sake of time. But you're going to edit each other's work, if necessary. Somebody else probably can't use it.
It'll end up
Like
in
it
will or
will,
not.
like it, yeah.
But that's all right, somebody will want it.
Yeah.
I just saw him.
And as you're editing each other, turn the pages, however you need to turn them. I think she already. I'm just getting all this out. Oh, did I already give you four?
Give us 4 just now.
Well, does it stay the same?
Number 3.
Yeah.
I know, I like that you're asking, yeah, because it's.
Okay, I go. Amen. Thank you. Okay, again, did this require a whole lot of extra stuff or a special problem? Yeah, nothing special about this. I got this from my pre-algebra problem-solving workbook. So it's just a regular problem. It's just how I'm delivering or how I'm requiring my students to do it that makes it cooperative. Okay, let's see, number 1. Who would like to tell us which one matches number 1? A, B, C, or D?
C.
Let's see, I have 50% of my polar foxes have an answer.
C.
Okay, y'all just gonna yell out C. That's fine. Okay, number 2, what letter? Okay, number 3? Okay, number 4?
I disagree because you have, in that 24-hour period, you have 2 high tides and 2 low tides.
Okay.
So you could argue graph 3.
Yep. So graph 3, let's look at this. So we have our discrepancy in graphs 3 and 4, and it's between which 2 letters?
A
Between A and D. Now I could get out my answer key, but let's discuss it. A certain Ferris wheel makes 2 circular loops. The height you are above the ground is related to the length of time you are on the ride. So, okay. So let's think about Ferris wheel. Here's my finger on the Ferris wheel. We get on. Okay, okay. And then let's see, the D. The height of water in a bay rises and falls with the tides. The height of the water is related to the time of day.
But when it goes up, it's not steady for a period of time.
But it's not designating 24 hours though,
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
number
12
A,
hours.
which says 2 loops.
The first one stay.
Right, that's what I'm saying, both of them should be number 3.
Wait a minute. What does A distinctively say that B doesn't?
2 loops.
It says 2 loops. And it says, what other words?
related to the length of time you will ride.
You're never steady on the comparison.
It's never constant.
Right.
There's never gonna be a plateau ever.
And so which one, so A is which one then?
3.
Okay.
But
And
D
so, but I think part of why 3 has to be an A or A is 3 is that 2 circular loops. If it weren't for that, I could agree that there's some, but I like your thinking.
Yeah, because when you have high tide, it doesn't stay right there. It's constantly going up and coming down. It's not gonna have a flat portion at the top when you're tides.
You don't want to push students direction.
The water level,
It's not
yeah.
the tide, it's the water that level.
But the water level is it's gonna be going up and coming down constantly.
Okay, and we could get into some science and discuss this, and I like the interdisciplinariness of this. And for the sake of algebra, we probably would just go with this, but I like your thinking, that you're thinking about it. Did you want to add something, Barbara?
Yeah, because we even talked about, well, what if somebody's getting off the Ferris wheel? Well, just
Yes.
stops.
And what if somebody, if it didn't just make, once the ride got started, we're making 2 circular loops. But what if there was an emergency and the ride had to be stopped? What's gonna happen to our graph in 3?
They're for sure change.
It'll just stay wherever it stops. It stopped here as well.
So it's gonna show some plateau over time, wherever it is we stop, whether we stopped up or down or however we stop. Okay, so the idea again is cooperative learning doesn't have to be this huge, big thing. And then there was something else I was gonna say. I can't remember. Okay. Oh, and this is round robin. So if you look into your brochures, the one that has the more pink on it, that says the structures at the top. I think, James, you guys have to look at the other one. You can grab one from over there. And inside of your brochures, there are lots of different structures, different ideas. I want you to just look through those briefly. And think of a problem in your classroom that you could use one of these structures to teach. And it could be a big project, it could be a big time-consuming project, like one of your challenges. It could be a unit where you use one of these, or it could be as small as one single problem. So give me some ideas. Tell me one or two that you think you, and we might not have an opportunity to hear from everybody, but give me one or two of these structures that you think you might be able to use in a classroom. I heard one over here. I heard somebody say something.
Stand up, hand
No, find a fiction.
Okay, find a fiction. Okay, and they call it Two Truths and a Lie. Is that like a college thing? Because I said that in class. I don't know what y'all were talking about. Is this a drinking game? I think it is. Okay. Okay. So we probably should call it what it's called in here so they won't. Okay. Make that connection. Okay. Any other ones that we can use?
I've used carousel feedback, especially when I have students who have a fear of speaking in public. One of the projects that they did last year, I just had them leave it and they all just rotated around each other's and left feedback. So I love that one, for kids that are afraid to present.
Okay, and you, especially adolescents, that's going to be a reality. Any other structures? And some of these, by the way, Kagan has been around long enough that some of these structures have been, are used often just in presentations. Like you'll go to a presentation and you'll hear the term rally robin or round robin. I'm trying to think of some other ones that you'll hear, and they originated from Kagan.
Think, pair, share.
Think, pair, share is something you hear people just say now. Anything else, Lennox?
Stand up, hand up, pair up. If I wanted to make sure my students got the objective for the day, I would have my students almost like musical chairs, but they're standing up, and the person they're next to, I'm next to you, and then we have to share the objective for the day or something, or make sure that we got the objective.
Okay, so there are quick little things that you can do. You can do quickly, or you can make them a part of a bigger unit.
I put it in here, I put it 2 ways. So this is a food for thought. This is a story I use with my students. It's called The Crayon Box That Talks. It's a little children's story, but it's pretty good. I'm going to see if we can, see if we can read that one first, so it'll project bigger.
The Crayon Box That Talks by Shane Roth, illustrated by Michael Litzig.
While walking in a toy store the day before today, I overheard a crayon box with many things to say.
I don't like red, said Yellow, and Green said, nor do I, and no one here likes orange, but no one knows just why.
We are a box of crayons that doesn't get along, said Blue to all the others. Something here is wrong. Well, I bought that box of crayons
and took it home with me. And laid out all the colors so the crayons could all see.
They watched me as I colored with red and blue and green and black and white and orange and every color in between. They watched as the green became the grass and the blue became the sky. The yellow sun was shining bright on the white clouds drifting by. Colors changing as they touched, becoming something new. They watched me as I colored. They watched till I was through. And when I'd finally finished, I began to walk away. And as I did, the crayon box had something more to say. I do like red, said yellow, and green said, so do I, and blue, you were terrific, so high up in the sky. We are a box of crayons, each one of us unique, but when we get together, the picture is complete.
So that's kind of what we want you to do with your students as you begin, because as Ms. Cargile said, I probably should call her. You have to teach students to collaborate, because they're not going to just know how to do it on their own. So I use this at the beginning of the year sometimes and have them write about how the crayon box was before, and then how can they make the classroom like the crayon box in the end. And so we can start talking about, you know, things that they can do, maybe even coming up with your classroom rules if you allow them to do that kind of thing. So that was just some food for thought that you can use in this book. I have it from an ebook, or you can buy it at Walmart or wherever. So I saw it at a Kagan workshop that I was happened to go to, so I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, and I encourage you to share, if you're in a team-based school, to share it with your teammates. Because for the sake of time, and of course, completing your curriculum, this might be something that you could share, like maybe your language arts teacher wants to show the video and have a writing assignment or something based on it, and then you would, of course, benefit from that. So everything that you do doesn't always have to be, and I encourage that with my CEEMS units in general, everything that's done doesn't always have to be done through your class, especially if your students are or if your school is team-based, if they're in a cohort that stays together, or if they even just have the same sets of teachers. Any questions?
I have a couple of things I could share with them. Just cheap activities, if you would. One thing I did was took a rubber band and tied other rubber bands on it and had a stack of cups like this. And kids, without talking, have to build a pyramid.
Yeah.
So that's something that
I have that
is
as
cheap.
one of your links here on Biology Corner. It has a first day of school activities, and that's one of them.
And they love doing that. And then the other one I do is they take straws and they have to hold them with their hands, and they're all in a circle facing each other, and they have to turn the circle out without letting go of the straws. And you have to work together on that. So it's just two cheap activities.
Okay. Will this be sent to us? We have it on the website, Miss. On the wiki, Miss.
I put it on the wiki under rep. If you guys want to go to where it says rep, at the very bottom is the folder with PowerPoints posted there. So I have it posted there if you want to.
What about the fellows, the winter fellows?
Yeah.
That's it, just on the winter fellows.
Okay.
Yeah, they probably will need, well, all we can do is send them the page.
link.
Yeah, the page, and then they would have access to it.
Yeah.
No, we can do that.
Okay, some additional things that we were looking at before. If you guys want to have questions for the parking lot, if you haven't sent them to the poll everywhere, you can do that, or you can just raise your hand. But this is, we talked about earlier some technology collaboration, and then I found the link. I just linked it to this great picture Lori had of these with silver or gold things with their computers, but it has a lot of collaboration tools. It's like a ton for different things. So I just found that and linked to on the PowerPoint. So if you want to you know, go to these things, you can. I do, like I said, use Google Docs a lot. Like my students, if they do a group lab, they'll go in and they'll sign, each person will get a certain piece and they'll fill that out so they can finish it like within the class period. Presentations are done that way. They'll use the website piece, that's used as for my portfolio. They can make a website that's a portfolio. And so if you go to, I've linked this to the PowerPoint so that you can have access. There's a lot of different cool ones. I mean, it just was a bunch. So they give you a description as to what you can use them for. This debate one I thought was pretty cool. It uses graphs and they have like a little, I think they used it during the convention or something, but it's just doing something they could do like a think map or web type of thing. So it's pretty cool too. So that was some of the ones that I kind of looked at. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the parking lot. Anybody have any questions? I'm going to go back to our parking lot right here. The Ron Jane is the word. That's funny too. Like I was hating until he came back, so now I like him again. Anybody have any questions for us that we can maybe answer, concerns, anything? You don't have to put them up here, you can raise your hand.
But this is anonymous in case it's something you don't want.
Yeah, this is just, I tested it with this and then, so, okay. No questions? Okay. I think Lori already did the discussion about how you can use these things in your classroom. Like if you looked at the structures, you already kind of looked at that. That was our,
and I apologize if not everybody got one of those. I was the one that did the ordering. I didn't expect this many people to be here. If somebody didn't and wants to, maybe they could let them know, and then I could be happy to order more.
Well, it's the right amount though.
Oh, it was?
You ordered
Okay.
the right amount for cohort 3.
Okay.
So these are for cohort 3.
Okay.
Because cohorts 1 and 2 already have them. And
Okay.
then the Woodrow Wilson people, I have some stuff on, I have the same thing from the internet.
Oh, okay, so it's all right, okay. I
Yeah,
just
so
wanna
it's
make
fine.
sure
and
everybody
it
got
looks
what they
like we
needed.
have enough of a lot of these structure books, but not the pies. So
Okay.
we have a few more.
There was one pie.
So if we can make sure the cohort 3 people who are here get both, and then whatever we have left.
Access and take it to Woodrow Wilson.
And now we're gonna do a raffle. I have stuff, I'm gonna call your name, you can go over there and pick it up. I'm trying to give away everything, so if you like we can do